Hi, I know all about living with negativity and pessimism. I grew up in Mozambique, and from age 7 I lived with my grandparents when my parents got divorced. My grandparents were very pessimistic, and so were all their friends. For several years I walked around thinking that something is wrong or that something is going to go wrong. That was normal for me. My name's Antonio, or Tony for short, and yes, the world is going through turbulent times. It's hard to avoid the endless stream of bad news that has become part of our lives. Worse still, our brains are designed to continuously scan for potential dangers, and although most of today's dangers are probabilistic, the brain cannot tell the difference. It's no wonder that most people are pessimistic about their lives and the future, and convinced that the end is near. The reality can be very different, as you will see. Before we start, I'd like to ask you the following question. I know that you can all read, but I'm going to read these with you. How much control do you think that you have over your attitude to situations that you find yourself in? So between 0 and 100, 0 being you have no control, and 100 being you have full control. So what do you think between 0 and 100? Have you got the answer? I'll give it to you. It's 100%. We may not always have 100% control of the situations that we find ourselves in, but we certainly have 100% control over our attitude towards those situations. Now, this talk is not about whether the world is good or bad, or whether the world is getting better or worse. I'm certain that we could all compile a sizable list of crazy stuff happening in the world right now. This talk is about how you choose to live your life on all those other days that Snoopy's talking about in this cartoon. And with the information and tools that I'll give you today, you will be able to make that choice. So let's go through what I'll be covering in this talk. We'll start with a brief overview of the workings of the conscious and the subconscious mind. You need to understand our two minds and how they work, because this is where our perception of reality is created. We each have what I call a software package, which controls the way we behave and react. You'll see where our programming originated and how these programs have become our core beliefs. Next, we'll look at what I call debilitating attitudes. But you will understand cognitive biases and why some people live most of their life in fear. I will then explain some very important universal laws which you all need to understand. In this section, we will distinguish the difference between reality and illusion. In closing, I'll give you a tool to help you choose what to allow into your reality, into your life. It will all become clear, I promise, as we go along. So let's start. Behind your dashing good looks lies the most remarkable instrument in the universe, your biocomputer, or the human brain. It's capable of 2 million visual inputs, 100,000 audio inputs, and millions of simultaneous computations, all at the same time. It is a remarkable instrument. All we need to do is understand how it works and use it properly. Or as a friend of mine says, take a check from the neck up. So we have two minds, the subconscious and the conscious mind. The conscious mind is your creative mind. Your mind that when you are aware what you're thinking about what you're going to have for dinner tonight. Subconscious mind is your habit mind and where your programming is stored. They work together. Let me give you an example. Yesterday, you drove to a shopping mall with a friend, and while you were driving, you were chatting. Now today, if I were to ask you how many times did you stop at red traffic lights, how many times did you stop at stop streets, how many red cars did you see, you probably wouldn't be able to answer me. But if I were to ask you what you and your friend were talking about, you'd be able to tell me. Perhaps not word for word, but you'll be able to tell me what you were talking about. You see, while you were driving with the programming in your subconscious mind. Things that we have done for many years, such as driving, become a habit, and we do it without even noticing it. or, as I call it, on autopilot. When you were talking with your friend, you were using your conscious mind. The two minds work together, which is great when you are doing things like driving. But what about the rest of our software package? Where does it come from? Well, scientists tell us that during the first 6 to 7 years of our life, our brain is like in recording mode. It is known as hypnagogic state, where the brain is in the theta frequency, which is between 4 and 7 hertz. So we record all around us. As a boy, I observed how my father related to my mother. If you're a girl, you recorded how your mother related to your father. We observed our religious leaders, our teachers, our family and friends, and just about anyone else that we came into contact with during those early years. These individuals defined for us what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad, what is okay and what is not okay. But it was based on their beliefs, their cultural environment, and their moral values. These values were recorded into our subconscious mind and became our software package, our programming. So what is the problem? Well, Dr. Bruce Lipton tells us that for 95% of our lives, we operate on autopilot from our subconscious mind. This means that for 95% of our lives, we are operating with somebody else's programs, and we are not even aware of it. These programs have become our core beliefs, and now they dictate the way that we react to situations and to others. Because these beliefs infiltrated our mind, they are referred to as viruses of the mind, or memes. The term meme was first coined by Richard Dawkins in his book, The Selfish Gene. But it was Richard Brody who taught me about memes. Richard Brody is the guy who created the word processing software, Microsoft Word. He wrote a book called Virus of the Mind, The New Science of the Meme. So the function of a virus is duplicate, spread, and infiltrate. That's what it does. It duplicates itself, it spreads, and infiltrates. Biological viruses are transmitted from one organism to another and can be observed with a microscope. Computer viruses are transmitted from one computer to another, and you can detect it with antivirus software. This is how Richard Brody defines a meme. A meme is a unit of cultural ideas, symbols, or practices which can be transmitted from one mind to another. Now, you cannot see memes, but just like biological or computer viruses, they duplicate, spread, and infiltrate. So what are some of these memes? I have selected just a few out of hundreds of memes. Now, you may relate to some of these, or you may have others that you can add to this list. Let's take the first one, I don't deserve it. You may have been in the supermarket with your parents, age 5, and you picked up a toy and your dad said, put it back, you don't deserve it. And you heard this often enough, and it became a belief. Now, as an adult, consciously, you choose to buy or do something, but your package works against it. The next one, I can't afford it. Now, I heard this one a lot. Do you think that money grows on trees? We cannot afford it. We cannot afford it. After a while, I started believing it. So even though consciously you may not believe any of these, for 95% of the time, when you are on autopilot, you are not even aware that they are undermining your plans or dreams. Memes, they are everywhere, and you need to be aware of them. Now, decision-making in the face of uncertainty is never easy. So we, humans, have developed a subconscious strategy for decision-making, a set of biases which rely on our previous experiences, rules of thumb, educated guesses, stereotyping, memes, and our intuitive judgment. These preconceptions have been grouped into what is now referred to as cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are not abnormal. They are part of our human structure. Let's look at some of these. Actually, let's look at two of these, which can be very debilitating if we do not understand what is triggering them. The first is our pessimism bias. Pessimism is a general disposition to look on the dark side and to expect the worst in all things. It's the belief that things will turn out badly. I mentioned my early upbringing. Not only did I go around thinking that something is wrong or something is going to go wrong, but even after something that I anticipated going wrong didn't and turned out well, a week later I would still wonder, what if it had gone wrong? And that would cause me to relive the anxiety and the worry as though there was still the possibility of the event that was already in the past going wrong. Now, I know that this is a strange behavior for you to understand, but it's true. At the extreme, pessimism can give rise to serious conditions such as anxiety, stress, depression, fatalism, and apathy. Now, the next bias is one that the news media and advertising media are masters at targeting. It's our tendency to give more weight to negative information and experiences than to positive ones, and it's called our negative bias or negativity bias. And negative information is all around. If it bleeds, it leads seems to be the criteria for selecting the story which best grabs the viewer's attention. There are plenty of good news out there, but we wouldn't buy them. You know that if you've had 1,000 experiences with dogs and they're all great, but once you got bitten, that is the one that you will remember, not so? Not only that, but from that moment on, you're more likely to avoid all contact with dogs. That's our negativity bias. Now, this tendency to give more credibility to doom and gloom triggers another condition in humans. So what triggers this fear? Well, we have an organ in the primitive part of our brain, close to the hippocampus, called the amygdala. It's called the amygdala because it's for the Greek word for almond, because of its shape. The amygdala is our built-in radar system, which is constantly scanning for potential dangers. It is an essential organ for our survival, but it hasn't kept up with our modern world. When we are faced with a perceived life-threatening situation, the amygdala triggers a series of chemical and electrical activities, ensuring that our reaction to the perceived danger is automatic. It has to be. There's no time for our pattern recognition system to scan our memory bank and to look for a similar situation, identify the threat, and then consider possible solutions to neutralize it. Let me illustrate how this organ works by means of an example. Let's say that I'm walking in the forest and I come across a squiggly object on the ground. I immediately jump back before realizing stick, not snake. The response was automatic and immediate. My amygdala went into full alert and I went into flight mode. My focus tightened, my heart rate increased to pump more energy into the nerves so they fired faster. My pupils dilated for improved vision, and my skin cooled down as blood moved to the nerves for faster reaction time. Once I realized that it was a stick and not a snake, my system went back to normal and the amygdala back to scan mode. What I have just described was a local and present danger. But today's dangers are not the tiger in the bush variety. They are not physical. They are probabilistic. They are in our minds. They are triggered by something that you are exposed to, usually in the media, mainly on television, where it all seems so real. You are not face to face with the danger, and it may never happen. But our primitive amygdala cannot tell the difference, and it is designed to stay on high alert until the perceived danger passes from the picture. And herein lies the problem. You see, probabilistic dangers never vanish. They are there each time we turn on our screens, and our amygdala remains on high alert. The result is a brain convinced that it is living in a state of siege, and we live in fear. It's difficult to determine what is real and what is illusion these days. This quote summarizes it. Our perceived reality has less to do with what's out there and more to do what's in our brain. Next, we need to understand some very important universal laws. Things in our universe happen for a reason, not randomly. A series of conditions are necessary and different laws apply. It isn't randomly hot today, It's hot because certain conditions came together. Air mass movement, the angle of the sun, thermal currents, etc. And that gives rise to this heat. There are universal laws, and we all subjected to them. After all, we are made of the same stuff as everything else out there in the universe. These laws are understandable, repeatable, and predictable. And yes, there are such words. Let me start with one universal law that we are all familiar with, the law of gravity. Now, gravity does not have much to do with the subject of this talk, except to demonstrate that whatever your feelings about technology, it is because of our understanding of gravity that we could build an Airbus A380, which is able to carry 850 passengers and fly non-stop from Sydney to Dallas in 15.5 hours. These laws are not philosophical. It's not a case of, if there is no one else around and I walk off the top of a 10-story building, will I still hit the ground at 9.8 meters per second squared? The answer is yes, I will. Now, the next three universal laws have everything to do with the subject of this talk. The first important law is energy, or the law of conservation of energy. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can only change from one form into another. Everything in the universe is energy. I worked for a medical engineering corporate for 29 years. In 1983, I became involved with MRI, magnetic resonance imaging. This is an MRI image. MRI provided me with one of those wow moments, the moments that people talk about. Not the contents of the images, but how the images were created. This image was produced by electromagnetic energy being released from our body, or to be more accurate, by the energy released from the spinning hydrogen atoms in our water molecules. Electromagnetic energy is also released from our brain in the form of thoughts and from our heart in the form of feelings. It can be measured. At the factory, we measured this energy with an instrument called a SQUID. It's an acronym for Superconducting Quantum Interference Device. We measured thoughts and we measured feelings. In the human body, the heart is the biggest generator of electromagnetic energy next to the brain. The energy from the heart is 5,000 times stronger. So here's the important bit that you need to understand. If energy changes from one form into another, and our thoughts and feelings are electromagnetic energy, then what we think about and feel transmutes into their physical equivalent. Does this make sense? We are continuously creating our reality, whether we realize it or not. The next law is the foundation of Buddhism. It's Newton's third law. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Also known as the law of attraction, like attracts like, and also referred to as the law of cause and effect. So let's bring it together. Your thoughts and feelings are released in the form of electromagnetic energy. Energy changes from one form into another. Thus, your thoughts and feelings are the very blueprints that you are sending out to the universe to create your reality. What you say, think, and feel, and how you do it is very important. The universe does not judge or discriminate. Let me give you two examples. When you are thinking and feeling that life is hard, this is the blueprint that you're sending out to the universe for its creation, more hard life, and that's what you get back. This thought is not going to do it. I want more money. If I give you R1, that's more money. Now, I'm not discounting the fact that your life may have been hard, but instead of life is hard, shift the thought to life has been hard. It acknowledges that life has been hard, but opens the door for new possibilities from this moment on. The new thought is, life has been hard for me, but. If it is your choice to have more money, you need to be specific. Put out a new blueprint. I choose to have R1,000 left over each month after all my bills have been paid. Can you see the difference between that and I want more money? And by the way, use choose, think choose instead of want. Want is an open and not specific, and the universe will keep you wanting. Choose is specific. You need to be precise with the blueprints that you are putting out. You need to be very precise. Next, we need to understand vibration. It's the law of frequency or the law of vibration, and it states that everything in the universe vibrates, nothing rests, and everything has a natural frequency measured in hertz, cycles per second. 1 hertz is 1 cycle per second. To resonate with, meaning to tune to or to pay attention to anything, you need to tune to its natural frequency. Let me use an example of something that we can all relate to illustrate what I mean. Imagine that where you live there's a radio station called Music FM, and that Music FM transmits at a frequency of 95 megahertz. As far as you are concerned, sitting, watching this talk, Music FM does not exist. It's not part of reality. But if you were to tune to 95 megahertz, Music FM would become part of your life. You would hear it. So it's not that Music FM doesn't exist. It is existing and it is transmitting all the time. You're just not paying attention to it, so you can't hear it. So as far as you are concerned, it doesn't exist. It's not part of your life. So here's the important bit about this law. In order to resonate with anything, you have to tune into its natural frequency. I will let Winifred Gallagher summarize this important bit for me with a quote. What you pay attention to becomes part of your life. What you do not pay attention to does not exist as far as you are concerned. This is not about denying the existence of anything. This is about you choosing what you want to make part of your reality. You have 100% control over what you allow into your head. What we pay attention to affects the way we feel. How do you choose to feel? There are only 2 types of feelings. Those on your left feel good, and those on your right feel bad. All feelings are normal and are all part of our structure. Some are essential for our survival, as we have seen. We are all made up of the same stuff as everything else in the universe. Just like the weather, we may go through a whole range of emotions in one day. But if your thoughts and feelings create your reality, does it not make more sense to spend less time with those on the right and more time with those on the left? Again, it is okay to feel all these feelings, but if you can identify the triggers that make you feel bad, you will spend more time feeling good. With the tool that I'm about to share, you'll be able to do just that. But first, let's look at the 3 periods of our life. The past is everything that has happened until this moment. This moment, the present, which I call the now, and the future, which is everything that will happen from this moment on. Well, that's fairly obvious. The now is your own reality, this moment. Nothing else in your life is real except right now. This is also when your future is created. Your reality is created by the blueprints that you are releasing to the universe right now. The blueprint that reflects your thoughts and feelings, which are influenced by what you choose to pay attention to in this moment. The past, well, it's no longer real. The past is where you acquired your programming and your memes that we saw. You cannot change your past, and yet so many of us spend a lot of our times agonizing about what we cannot change. And by the way, you didn't make the right decisions in the past. Only a crazy person, when faced with a choice, would deliberately choose the wrong one. Today, of course, you have a lot more information to work with, and given the same choices, you might choose differently. But then you only had so much information to work with. The future. Thoughts that you may have about your future based on your experience from your past and your programming. Your future may or may not happen the way that you think. Newsflash, no one can predict the future. So don't believe everything that you think about. But you can create your own future. So how do you create your future? How do you decide what to make part of a reality from now on? You use what I call a choice filter. First, I need you to put yourself in an unpleasant situation, something that you're exposed to or that you are currently experiencing, something that you may have seen on television or on social media, something that you might have heard or read. Could even be something said about you on social media that you've read. Something that has triggered those feel-bad emotional states that we looked at. Okay, have you got a situation? The choice filter is in the form of a flow chart. So, you're going to ask yourself some questions. The first one you're going to ask is it true? It's a simple and valid question. We've seen that you cannot believe everything that you hear or even see. So the answer to this question can be yes, it's true, maybe, it may be true, or no, it's not true. Let's say that it is or that it may be true. The next question that you can ask yourself is, will it have a direct impact on my life? Will the situation affect my life directly? Remember that this is about you and your life, not anybody else's. Again, there are three possible answers. Yes, it will have a direct impact on my life. Or maybe it might have a direct impact on my life. Or no, it will not. But let's say that the situation will or may have a direct impact on your life. So the next question is anything that you can do to change the situation? Can I do anything to change it? Let's assume that you can do something to change the situation directly, or that you can motivate some action to change the situation, such as reporting it to the authorities, through an educational program, petitions, public awareness, and so on. So the next question, which is the last one, do I choose to do anything about it? I put this question here because there may be situations when you are able to change a situation, but you may choose not to do so. Here's an example. A friend of mine lived next to a couple with a 2-year-old child. On a daily basis, the husband would beat his wife, screaming, shouting. The child would be crying, as you can imagine. So she phoned child services and they acted. The couple found out that she had reported them, and they both abused my friend, including slashed tires and a very nice scratch along the side of her car. So sometimes the consequences are worse than the original situation. Remember that nothing lasts forever. So you may choose not to do something about a situation that you can change, and that is why the question is here. But let's say that you choose to do something about the situation, then do something about it immediately. Don't dilly-dally. Because the longer you dilly-dally, the more you enter into that hell zone. The hell zone is the time between when you know you have to do something and you actually do something. And the longer you leave it, the worse it gets. However, if any of the answers to the questions is no, choose not to pay attention to it. Don't make it a part of your life. Remember that what you choose not to tune into, as far as you are concerned, does not exist. If the answer to the first question is yes, move to the next question and continue down the flow chart. Remember Music FM. When you don't tune to it, it's not part of your life. I've been asked the following questions. Is this not a selfish approach? Is it right to tune out from what is happening in the world? Is it not like living with your head in the sand? Well, I've been reiterating throughout this talk that this is about how you choose to live your life, how you choose to feel. Is your worrying and feeling sick about a situation going to have any effect on changing that situation? It will certainly have an impact on your well-being. My suggestion is that you avoid all news for a week. And whenever one of those feel-bad emotions come along, question it, such as I have just demonstrated with the flowchart. What do you have to lose? I've never accomplished anything constructive by stressing about situations that will not have a direct impact on my life or that I cannot change. I'm not denying that these situations exist. I'm simply choosing not to make them part of my reality. I choose not to watch, nor read or listen to mainstream news. I block all internet news feeds and choose only what I want to be informed about, which is very easy today with our friend Google. I tune into a music station, and on the hour, I'm given a summary of what is happening in the world. That's enough. If you can change a situation, do it. As some of you might be aware, I'm the co-founder of an environmental group. I'm committing to protecting the biodiversity on my doorstep. I do this through information, education, and by cooperating with my community and other like-minded individuals, organizations, and groups. When necessary, we do initiate petitions and even peaceful demonstrations. That's the end of the talk. If you have any comments or questions, send me an email. I appreciate your feedback. If you would like to be informed of talks, workshops, or posts, you could choose to go and like my Facebook page and subscribe to my YouTube channel. The details will be given after the slides in the last slide. Thank you so much for watching.